This is Music, and this is another Japan-themed first impressions video. Welcome to another first impressions video. In these videos, I share with you my first impressions of the many blind buys I've picked up lately. This time I have a stack of CDs. They are all in the Japanese metal theme, as it were. And there's some old stuff from the 80s, there's some stuff from the 90s as well, I think, and there's some more recent stuff. So, up first, a couple of Seikima-II albums. So first we have this one here, Frightful Restaurant. Fantastic cover artwork and fantastic fashion here. As you can see, they're going for kind of a shock rock approach. Very, very cool, very elaborate outfits and makeup and all that stuff. And the music, fantastic too. I think this is a great album. My favorite album by these guys is You Guy Rock On, but I think this one is at the same level in terms of how much I like it. It's quite different in terms of the music. This is more of a straight up like heavy metal album. I don't know if it's a concept album, to be honest. It is kind of horror themed. You have some kind of horror oriented skits, at least one. The music is heavy metal, 80s heavy metal with a very high level of musicianship. You have some cool like softer and more mellow parts, but it's fantastic 80s heavy metal. I don't know if it's because of the the whole shock rock thing and the makeup and all that stuff. I get a little bit of a King Diamond-esque vibe from this album. They don't sound like King Diamond though. They have their own thing going on, and like I said, fantastic album. Definitely worth picking up if you like your 80s heavy metal. The next one is this one here. It's similar in style, but maybe a little bit more accessible, as it were. But you also have some just fantastic heavy metal songs on here. A slightly similar vibe, but like I said, a bit more accessible, a bit less dark, perhaps. But some really cool riffs all over this place. I think it's almost as good as Frightful Restaurant, if not as good. It's just a little bit different. So great stuff. We got more Seikima-II. This one here, The Outer Mission. Now on this one, you still have your kind of 80s heavy metal stuff going on, but there's a little bit more hard rock on here. They are going in even a little bit of AOR, I would say, but also some heavy metal. So it's much more melodic, it's much more accessible, but I still think it's very good. I don't like it as much as the other two albums, but I still like it quite a lot. And one thing that I do like about all of these albums is that you have some slight kind of just very slight progressive leanings. And the guitar solos are absolutely fantastic on all of these albums. Then there's this one here, News. Has a little bit more of, I don't even know if it is from the 90s, but it has a bit more of a 90s rock, 90s metal feel to it. But it's still very good. You still have some very good riffs on here. You have some ballads that are actually pretty good too. So I think this is a great song. Album 2. No Good News Today is the best song on the album, in my opinion. But it's a good album. It's very enjoyable. It's one I'm going to listen to a lot, that is for sure. And the last Seikima-II is this one here, Move. So this one is also a bit more accessible. It's also a bit more hard rocky. There's a bit more AOR sneaking in on this album, but it's very enjoyable as well. it's not as, shall we say, 90s ish, and nor is this one. They're not as 90s ish and as kind of almost like humorous as the punk album is. And I do like these two a little bit better, actually a lot better than the punk album. And that doesn't mean that I don't like their album Punk. It's just my least favorite Seikima-II album for now. But yeah, these are very good too, very enjoyable. And I kind of like that they are like changing their style up every now and then from album to album. That makes it, if you want to listen to their discography, it makes it a very interesting and kind of varied experience. What they all have in common, though, is the very high level of musicianship. So, another band from back in the day is Shoya. So here we have Ways by Shoya. And the albums that I heard by Shoya previously were a bit more AOR-ish. And the guitar was kind of weak, not in terms of the performance. There's actually some really good guitar work going on those albums, but in the mix. And the guitar is also kind of weak in the mix here, but musically this is much heavier. It's much more of a heavy metal album. You have some more aggressive songs on here. You do have your melodic songs. You do have some AOR elements as well. But this is a fantastic album, especially the song Ferry, which is on here. I think it's kind of a classic. I really like that song for sure. This is a great album. They're all ladies, of course, and they know how to rock, and they know how to rock in a melodic way as well. Great album. A shame that the guitar is a bit low in the mix, but you can hear the bass, and the keyboards are quite loud in the mix, but the keyboard work is fantastic, so it doesn't matter that much. I just think it's a shame that the guitar is that low, but I guess that was the sound back then. Then we have this one here, Glamour, or Glamour, perhaps, by Shoya as well. Same style, like heavy metal with some melodic hard rock going on as well. The guitar is a little bit more punchy here in terms of the production. All the songs are great, heavy metal songs, some ballads as well, some AOR as well. There's a very interesting version of Beatles' Blackbird as a bonus track on here. So that's very cool too. I think this is a great album too. I do prefer Ways a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that one is a bad album. And here we have Hard Way, for those of you who like picks. There's a pick for you right there. Also quite heavy, punchy guitar tone. You have some pretty hard rocking songs on here. It's still, to my ears, more metallic sounding, with your AOR, with your melodic hard rock, with your ballads for sure. But some hard rocking metal songs with quite a punch to the guitar tone as well, but a bit more melodic than the previous two albums, but still very good. So it's almost like these three albums kind of belong together. In terms of style, they're a bit heavier, they're a bit more heavy metal. There's a punch to the songs. Some of them are actually really fast. I would actually argue that Ferry is a kind of a power metal song. Then we have Trade Last. This is another great album, but this is more of an AOR melodic hard rock album. And I don't mind that because I have a soft spot for 80s AOR. Good stuff. You have some cool hard rocking riffs on here for sure. Good vocals as well. That applies to all the albums. But yeah, a bit more melodic, a bit more AOR, but still very good. That is for sure. And the same thing goes for this one, Shoya Immigration. There are a couple of really hard-hitting songs on here, but for the most part, it's melodic hard rock, AOR. And I would say, and that also applies to this one. You also have some songs that are just straight up 80s rock, not hard rock or metal or anything, but they're still good. I mean, I think 80s rock was actually pretty good. I grew up in the 80s, so there's a bit of nostalgia there. So yeah, these are a bit more melodic, a bit more hard rock oriented, AOR, even 80s rock, but they're still very good. And uh, the musicianship on all of these is also top notch. The drums are solid. Keiko's vocals, I really like her singing. She has a quite unique voice, I think. She knows how to belt, and she knows when to belt, and she knows when to, sing a bit more softly and stuff like that. She's a very good vocalist. The guitar work is great, especially the guitar solos. There are a lot of kind of, it's not shreddy, but a lot of neoclassical figures in the solos. And the bass is just pumping, and is actually very interesting. You can hear the bass quite prominently on, I think, all the Shoya albums I've heard so far. And the keyboards are very prominent. They are kind of the key piece or whatever. But it's a very, very good keyboard player they have too, so that doesn't matter. So great stuff, really good albums if you like your 80s metal and 80s hard rock. And then there's this one here, Turn Over by Shoya, with the infamous kind of quasi risque cover artwork. I still contend that she stubbed her toe, but whatever. So this is actually a live album, and I'm not normally kind of like a big live album aficionado or anything like that. But what I really like about this live album is that you have some of the songs from some of those albums where the guitar tone is a bit weak, performed with a stronger, punchier guitar tone, including a live version of Ferry. So that's why I actually quite enjoy this one. And those of you who don't like live albums because the audience noise is disturbing, there's not a lot of that out on this one. They've kind of isolated that away, so you don't hear a lot of that. That's not so much why I'm not a live album guy. I don't know why. I just prefer studio versions. But yeah, very good live album, worth picking up if you are interested in exploring Shoya. So that was some old stuff from back in the day. So let's turn to some newer stuff. Here we have Nemophila's Evolve, their 2024 album, and it's kind of, I think it's kind of fitting to talk about this album in the same video where I've just mentioned Seikima-II and Shoya, because Shoya and Seikima-II have had an influence on Nemophila. I know that Seikima-II is Saki's favorite band, and they've done collabs with some members from Shoya. They've done some Shoya cover songs, two of them featuring the drummer from Shoya, and one of them I think featured Keiko on vocals. But this is their own album. First thing to note is the musicianship in this band is out of this world. They have one of the best drummers around. They have a vocalist who is one of my favorite vocalists, Mayu. I've heard some people trash her voice. They don't like her voice. It is what it is. I really like her singing style, and I like her voice. And then you have Hazuki and Saki on guitars. They're both great guitarists. They have different styles of playing, and they complement each other very well. And then you have Haraguchi-san on bass, just rock solid bass. She does a bit of slapping and popping and funky bass work in some of the songs here, which is great. So I think this is a great album. There's a lot of variation in terms of the music. You have some metalcore, you have some almost pop punkish stuff, you have some kind of modern thrash sounding stuff as well. They kind of draw on a lot of different genres, and it works very well. A little bit of new metal as well. Very heavy guitar tone. I think all the songs are very enjoyable. I like some of them better than others. There is one song called Night Flight, which is it's kind of a bubblegum pop song. I mean, it has like a disco beat, and it does have heavy guitars and stuff, but if you just replaced the guitars and the bass with some electronic stuff, this could have been played in a disco in the 90s. I mean, not the entire album, but the Night Flight song. It's kind of a fun song. But I think this is a very good album. It is definitely worth checking out if you are interested in modern Japanese heavy metal. And if for no other reason, to check out the musicianship. I like this album quite a lot, as you can tell. And up last, some modern metal from 2023, I think it was. But it's very old school. It's Ningen Isu. And the style here is kind of a mix of heavy metal and hard rock and I would say 70s rock as well. A lot of their other albums have a more of a doom metal feel going on. There is a little bit of that here too, but it's not as doomy as some of the other albums I've heard. But you have some awesome riffage. A lot of it is just straightforward hard rock, and you have the bass player actually does a lot of singing on this album too. He has more of a kind of unsettling voice, and then you have the guitarist with his quasi-operatic-ish kind of voice. It's a quite long album, but all the songs are great. It's a bit of hard rock, a bit of metal, a little bit of doom as well, and you have a couple of almost like thrashy songs as well, which I really appreciate. Ningen Isu is a band that you have to hear and make up your own kind of mind about them, but I think this is a great album too. Glad I picked it up. I still have a host of Ningen Isu albums I have to check out yet. I have them in my collection, haven't heard them yet, but this is a great album. My favorite song of theirs is Heartless Scat, which is, it's not on here, it's an older song, but you have some songs here that are fantastic as well. Definitely worth checking out. So there you go. Some old Japanese metal and some new Japanese metal and some kind of new old or old new Japanese metal. All of this stuff is great stuff. I enjoyed listening to all of them. Thanks for watching.